Right, this is a bit of an unusual video for me. As by the title you probably see, in understanding my budget for my MR2 that I'm doing, I went ahead and bought some Chinese wastegates. I bought 2 of them. They're 38mm supposedly, even though when you measure the inside of here, one's smaller than 38 and one is still smaller than 38mm. So as far as external wastegates go, I'm not sure how they size them, but the hole is not 38mm, I can tell you that. It's slightly smaller, but that's fine. Only slightly smaller. Anyway, so what we've got here is a no-name Chinese knockoff from AliExpress. It cost about $110 in New Zealand. And I did lots of reviews, watched lots of reviews on YouTube, etc. of Chinese wastegates and the pros and cons. Obviously, they're cheap, very cheap, about a third, a quarter of the price of a real one. And the cons are obviously the quality is not as good. So, and I've gone for a wastegate with a it's a longer wastegate with these heat sinks, because a lot of the common complaints that I saw on the YouTube reviews were that the valve, eventually the valve guide that the valve sits in, slides up and down inside, slowly wears out and the valve ends up getting floppy and loose inside here. So I thought, obviously with a longer head height, there'd be less chance of this getting a floppy valve over time, because it's got a longer guide on it. Well, that's the plan anyway. You can actually see the guide inside. So what I've done is I've bought 2 of them because I've got a twin scroll turbo. I'm running two wastegates, hence why I only went for a 38mm, because there's 2 of them. Initially they look pretty good. Casting looks pretty good of the hot side. Machining's just standard. When I look inside the ports, I can see the holes haven't been deburred properly internally, so that's fine. I think the general rule of thumb is that you will definitely have to, if you buy a Chinese turbo, is strip it down, clean it, check it. And so this is the one that I haven't pulled apart, and in this box is one that I have pulled apart. They didn't name the PSI that the unit was running, so it had a big spring and a little spring. I think generally they have a 15 psi, like a 5 psi spring and a 10 psi spring, and together they make like a 15 psi. But we'll find out. I'm only going to be running the small spring for a start. So the springs look okay, no problem. So the one I pulled apart, yeah, it wasn't the flashest. I'll start with this diaphragm. There's machining dust all over it. There are a few little specks and chunks of machining swarf all over the place, so that definitely needs to be cleaned up. I mean, there was quite a big chunk of swarf sitting against the edge of the diaphragm where it seats inside the... I'll get all this out. Yeah, there was a big chunk of swarf sitting inside the lip where the diaphragm seats on. Okay. So, all in all, not too bad. There are a few little issues. For a start, this is the valve. It's all good. The machining is probably a little bit fast, and it's not silky smooth anyway, so I might just spin that up in the lathe and just smooth it off with a bit of fine sandpaper just where the seal runs. There is a seal in the top of here, and hopefully that will be okay. Make a nice seal, and you can actually see there's a bit of swarf still sitting in there. So this looks all okay, not too bad. These little heat sinks, they are what they are. And the biggest problem I found was a couple of things. Where is it? Oh, I've lost parts already. Anyway, I think they had assembled it wrong, and this heat shield sits along here, and one of the holes didn't quite line up properly, so they just screwed it down, and they obviously figured out there was a slight problem, so they stuck a washer under one side to try and even up the top where it sits on, so that it was a little bit straighter. Bit sneaky, but yeah, all because you can see this heat shielding had been pinched, wasn't assembled correctly. The screws in that were all done up pretty tight, but just not assembled right. So my biggest concern about the whole thing is it's looking okay, is the seat. This is the seat for the valve, and it does fit nice. It seals really well. I've checked it. The only problem is when it's assembled into the bottom of the gate, it sits slightly under the level of the gate, and then they've given me a matching V-band which also has a recess in it, so when it's clamped together solid, the seat can actually move up and down slightly. And I wouldn't have thought that's a good idea, but in all honesty, it does actually seal perfect. There's no gases get through once the whole thing's assembled. It seals perfectly, and I'm not sure if they've left that seat loose on purpose to make sure that it matches nicely with the bottom of the valve. I'm not sure. I'm going to pull the other one apart later on and see if that one's got the same looseness. Once, like I said, once it's all assembled, the seat and the valve and the extra V-band make a perfect seal. It all seals, and there's no gases get through there at all. But it just seems a little bit odd to me. It may be the way they are. I'm not really sure. I'm going to do some research into it and find out. But that was my biggest concern. If I have to, I'll just machine up a little thin washer so that when the whole thing is V-band together, with the quite nice V-bands that they've given me, they all seem to work alright, the seat will be in there tight. That's the plan anyway, so unless I find out otherwise that it's supposed to be loose. So yeah, so for the money, 110 New Zealand dollars, I think yeah, you can't go wrong as long as you're prepared to do a little bit of work to clean it up. I'm going to clean it, reassemble it, possibly make up that washer for the seat, and put some lapping paste in there on the valve, make sure that the valve is seating properly, and go from there. And we'll see how this all works out. But I think it'll come up alright. I think just with a little bit of elbow grease, the whole unit will work out fine. Like I said about the sizing, Schedule 40 steam pipe comes in here, fits around that diameter quite nicely, but as for the outlet, it's smaller, and I'm not sure what the next size down is, 32, oh, I can't remember, but anyway, the next size down steam pipe fits on that quite well. So we'll find out what I'm going to do later on. But this will be a part 1 for the wastegates, and the part 2 will be after I've finished, and we'll see how all this goes, and hopefully I can make it work. In the past, I've believe it or not, I've actually made my own wastegates, and they've worked really well. But I thought I needed 2 of them. I needed them to be exactly the same, and I thought I would try a Chinese one. They all seem to work. I hadn't seen one like this reviewed with the extra tall housing on it, with the heat sinks on it. So I thought, well, it's got everything going for it, so maybe I'll just see what it is. It's not too much money to throw away if it doesn't work, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So that's it for now, and hopefully this video comes out alright. It's a bit dark in my old shed here, and we'll see you next time. Alright, see you later.